And good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kathy Schultz. I am the Water Education Specialist with the California Department of Water Resources, and I'd like to welcome you to Water Wednesdays. The mission of the Department of Water Resources is to sustainably manage the water resources of California in cooperation with other agencies to benefit the state's people and protect, restore, and enhance the natural and human environments. One way that we do this is through managing flood risk. And if you've lived in California for any length of time, you know that we can go from very dry conditions to very rainy in a very short amount of time. And sometimes those rainy conditions bring floods. So today is the second part of our flood preparedness series. Last week, we heard from George Qualley about flood risk in California, particularly the Sacramento Valley, and how the Sacramento River Flood Control Project reduces that risk. If you missed George's presentation, you can find it on our YouTube channel, along with our previous presentations on delta ecology, our summer water sources, as well as salmon. Today, we are joined by Mike Mirzwa, and Mike is the Chief of DWR's Floodplain Management Office. And Mike will be talking a bit more about flood risk in California and how we're using both engineering and nature to manage that flood risk. Before I turn things over to Mike, I just want to go through a few quick logistics. If you're joining us for the first time, or if you've been with us before, we have asked you to turn off your videos and to mute your microphones. This just helps reduce the background noise and distractions while Mike is talking. But we do really want to hear from you. Those of you who are joining us on Zoom have the opportunity to ask Mike questions. And in order to do that, you just go down to the bottom of your screen, click on the chat box. It's a little word bubble that has the word chat under it, and you can type your questions in there. And after Mike's done with his presentation, I will get to as many of those questions as I can. We do have captions if you would like to be able to read along while Mike is talking. Maybe you're in a crowded place and it's a little bit noisy. And to do that, you again just go to the bottom of your screen, click on CC, and you'll get the closed captions. If on the other hand, they're already turned on and you don't want to see them, you can turn them off by clicking that same CC button. So that covers pretty much how Zoom works today. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to Mike. All yours, Mike.
Sounds good. Okay. Kathy, are you able to see the screen? Is it coming up?
I am able to see the screen, so I'm going to drop off and let you be the star.
Perfect. Well, howdy, everybody. Again, my name's Mike Mirzwa, and in my role in the Department of Water Resources, I'm actually the state floodplain manager. I grew up in floodplains, and it's definitely a passion of mine and interest. But today I'm going to be talking about flood risk in California, and specifically what you can do about it. I always like to ask people, do monster storms contribute to flood risk? This is one of my favorite political cartoons. It has a picture of Godzilla representing the El Nino, and then it also has a picture of the blob, which for meteorologists back, if you remember the drought from around 2015, the blob was a warm water that was sitting off the coast of California that actually was prohibiting storms from coming into California, whereas El Nino is warm water sitting out in the Pacific, the tropics, and it would actually generate storms that could bring in winter rainfall. And the idea was who would win, the blob or El Nino in a battle. Are either of those monster storms? Well, not really. However, monster storms do contribute to flood risk. I don't know if any of you can tell me what the difference between a hurricane, a cyclone, or a typhoon is. It's kind of a trick question. They're all the same thing. They're all tropical storms. They just have different names depending on where in the earth they take place. But most of us are familiar with the hurricanes that hit the United States out here. And that is one example of a true monster storm that brings dangerous rainfall totals to places like us. However, instead of hurricanes, California experiences atmospheric rivers. This picture here shows an atmospheric river, and the best way to think of it is it's almost like a river, just a very large river that's floating in the atmosphere. The rivers while they can be about 200 to 300 miles in length, the most intense rainfall happens in a very narrow band. And California's topography of having two massive mountain ranges, a coastal range, and then later the Sierra Nevada, really works to push the moisture in these atmospheric rivers up higher. And then as the moisture cools, as it gets higher in the atmosphere, that's what creates these bands of heavy rainfall that lead to a lot of the coastal flood events and a lot of the Central Valley flood events in California. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about these. Instead, I'm going to encourage you next week to listen to Alyssa Lynn from the department talk about what we know about atmospheric rivers. However, atmospheric rivers do bring in rainfall totals to California that are similar to the hurricanes. This is a map taken from the United States Dam Safety Organization several years ago, in which you could see the state of Texas can get over 25 inches per rain in one day, where California can too in some locations. And that's often surprising to a lot of people because when we drive around in the summer, we see that it's very brown or gold on our hills out here. But there are parts of California, particularly in the winter, due to atmospheric rivers, where we can see extreme rainfall totals. An example of that happened in 2017. There were over 68 atmospheric rivers that made landfall in the western United States. About half of those came through the state of California. And you can see everybody in California was impacted by those storm events that came through. And there was multiple. And I'm going to not walk through everything here, just give you a sample. Some of you may have remembered in February of 2017, when so much rainfall came into the Feather River, that there was a problem with the Oroville spillway that also led to the reservoir filling up, and it led to some erosion on the emergency spillway. So this is a picture of late February of 2017, the water rushing through a damaged spillway onto the Feather River. So that's one example of flooding that can happen. About the same time, shortly after the Oroville spillway incident, in the Bay Area, near the town of Morgan Hill, Anderson Dam also had so much rainfall, different storm, different location in the state, that its emergency spillway was also functioning to spill. I would not like to live in that house right behind that spillway. In fact, there was so much water that was released by Coyote Reservoir and Anderson Dam that Highway 101 actually had to close for a brief period. And there was also a mandatory evacuation for people living downstream of the dam there. But the flooding in 2017 was a statewide issue. This is one of my favorite photos. It's pretty scary. This bit literally shows Interstate 15 coming down here from the bottom, going down from, coming from Las Vegas, going to Los Angeles. And there was so much water that was moving down this creek that runs adjacent to Interstate 15 that it caused erosion. Firefighters showed up to prevent traffic from using the far end of the freeway. And unfortunately, there was so much erosion that the entire freeway collapsed, and the fire truck and another truck fell into what was basically this river channel that compromised the interstate. Here's another picture, again, of Cajon, California. Just to give you an idea of the consequences, this 200-foot patch of interstate cost $3 million for Caltrans to go through and repair. And it resulted in major traffic delays for people moving between Las Vegas and Los Angeles on this important U.S. corridor. And again, I never like to see fire trucks in danger. They're supposed to save us, but it gives you a sense of how dangerous storms can be. So one of the key things I want you to take away from my presentation today is what is considered deep flooding. And so I'm going to ask you, is deep flooding occur at 1 foot of depth, 3 feet of depth, or 5 feet? So this is a picture of a woman standing in water, and the question is do we consider it deep flooding when it's at 1 foot, basically to her legs? Is it at 3 feet when the water would come to an average height woman at her waist? Or is it 5 feet of depth when it comes to her head? Now I'm going to go ahead, and I asked you to think about it. I'm going to tell you the answer here, but this is something that you can talk to later about people. The correct answer is actually 3 feet is what in the United States we consider to be deep flooding. And the reasons are, one, when the water comes to 3 feet, your ability to move in the water is very limited. If the water is fast moving, you're going to be carried away with that water. You're not going to be able to walk through that water as much as you think you might be able to, because it will be fast moving in a flood event. And number two, the leading cause of death and flooding is actually people being trapped in their cars. And a car effectively becomes a boat at 3 feet. Most of our cars will float and lift off the pavement and start moving with the water. Unlike a boat, which has a rudder where you can steer where the boat is going, your steering wheels and tires are not going to help you when there's no contact with the pavement. And so this is a reason that when you see deep water in a flood condition, do not get in that water by any means. And that 3 feet is like a magic number across the world. So the next question is, what places are most likely to flood? And I said more likely, but I'm going to say most. Well, there are certain places that are most likely to flood, and we refer to those places as floodplains, literally a plain where there's flooding. And in California, there are 3 basic types of floodplains, and I'll talk through them here. The first, I'm going to go to the middle here, are the riverine floodplains. Most of you will be familiar with those. I'm showing on the map right now the Central Valley of California, where you have the Sacramento River, the largest river in the state of California, and then the San Joaquin River, the second largest river in California. The areas around the entire Central Valley are floodplains. And when those rivers swell and have too much water, these areas are where you have flooding. The second area, and it's hard to see in this, is the coastline. Everywhere that you have a sandy beach in California is a coastal floodplain. And these areas are subjected to flooding. And I'll talk more about when and how in a little bit. But that covers most of the state's population. And then finally, an area that you might not have heard about are alluvial fans. And you can see these in this map of these orange areas. Alluvial fans are areas where there's a plain right next to a steep mountain or very steep, large hillside. And these alluvial fans can be very flashy. It doesn't take an atmospheric river to cause a flood in an alluvial fan. In fact, a small thunderstorm can generate massive consequences and risks to people and property in alluvial fans, and I'll talk more about that as well. But your basics, remember, alluvial fans, riverine floodplains, and coastal floodplains are the 3 basic types of floodplains we have. So the riverine floodplain is the type of flooding that we're most familiar with, and this is one of my favorite photos of the Mississippi River. You're looking at the Mississippi River here off to the right, and then in the bottom, flowing north and then meeting the Mississippi River and then flowing down south again is the Missouri River. The Mississippi River is the largest river in the United States of America, and the confluence of the Missouri and Mississippi rivers is just north of St. Louis, Missouri. This is a satellite image of the confluence of those rivers from August 14, 1991. And then on the right hand of the screen, you can see the same photo, but now it's a picture taken in August 19, 1993. That 1993 was one of the record flood events and one of the reasons that I decided to become a civil engineer and really focus in on flood management. And what you can see here is when the river actually was in flood condition, the floodplains actually became part of the river. And the river increased its size an order of magnitude by a factor of 10 in some locations. So there was a lot of work and research done here in riverine flooding. Coastal flooding is the second type of hazard that I talked about. And on the left here, you have a picture of some houses in Imperial Beach in January 2019. This is an example of a winter storm surge. So literally a storm coming through the Pacific Ocean came into the coast, and as the storm came through, it brought with it additional floodwaters. And you can see in this picture, the water's coming into the first stories of all these beach houses, and it's backing into the streets on the land side of these houses. It's a very dangerous condition. Coastal flooding can also happen due to sea level rise or just to a phenomenon that we call the king tide. The king tide is basically a time of year when the earth, the sun, and the moon are in a perfect lineup that create a swelling of the oceans due to tides. This particular photo is taken on the Embarcadero in downtown San Francisco, and you can literally see the water is the same height as literally the boardwalk there, and this person's jumping over puddles. So some of the ways that you can have coastal flooding, I talked about first is the winter storm surge. Sea level rise increases the height of our king tides that we get every year with or without a storm. And then another way that we can have coastal flooding, of course, are tsunamis. An earthquake in the ocean create a wave of water that can come in and inundate our coastal floodplains. Next, the type of floodplain that most people are not familiar with, but literally 40% of Southern California is at risk due to alluvial flooding, are areas like this. This is a picture in Southern California, in Death Valley, in fact, where you can see a dry mountain range, a plain, and then this pyramid-shaped fan of alluvium that is a clear sign that this is an alluvial fan and an alluvial floodplain. Literally what happens is when you have a thunderstorm or other extreme intense event come through on a small scale, the storm can bring so much water that the rain will literally, in this non-vegetated mountain range, pull debris with it and spread it out over the fan. And each time this happens, it's very difficult to determine exactly where the water is going to go in the fan, but we know it'll eventually get to the floodplain. The other challenge with alluvial flooding is that as it's moving, the water actually bulks, like bulking up like the Hulk. And literally it carries with it mud, rock, trees, other debris. All of this additional material make the water move slower, but it actually means that that water does more damage when it hits things such as this person's house in Southern California. And with 40% of Southern California sitting in alluvial fan areas, it's very important for us to be aware of what's happening out there. And I neglected to mention, I'm going to bring it back up again, while 40% of Southern California is an alluvial fan area, 60% of the state's population live in those coastal areas that I showed on the previous slide. So 6 out of 10 Californians are living near or in a coastal floodplain. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what causes flooding. The common theme is backwater. How many of you have ever done like a fun run or a race? I have. The problem is when you do one of these races, often when you get to the race, there are a lot of people before the race starts that are in front of you. I often have noticed that there are people with baby strollers or bicycles or dogs. They're not necessarily fast runners, but the fact that they're in front of me prevents me from being a fast runner. Water is the exact same way. We call this effect backwater. So in a normal river or stream or creek, water can go down a pretty clear, easy path. But in a flood condition, when there's a lot of water, it slows down because the water ahead of it actively acts as a barrier, preventing the water from moving fastly. And as the water goes slowly, more and more water starts backing up. It's like traffic, and this causes the water to rise. So this is a backwater condition. So floodplains. Another thing that people don't understand about floodplains is they think that floodplains actually are higher than the rivers. They think that floodplains are where the rivers go only when there's too much water. In fact, most rivers in the world are perched. Literally like a bird, they perch up higher than the surrounding floodplain. This graphic shows the city of Sacramento, and then off to the right, which in this case would be the west near where I live, is Yolo County and the Yolo Bypass. And you'll see in this picture that the land goes from the high Sacramento River down lower to a floodplain. And this is actually a good thing. It means that when the Sacramento starts overtopping and there's too much river or water in the Sacramento River, it can go into these floodplains. That's nature trying to take care of things. But we can also use floodplains as an effective way to protect ourselves by knowing that they will flood. In this case, I'm going to show on the right here a graphic that shows stage. This is what engineers refer to the water height within the, not the water body, but from a land perspective. So in this particular graphic, we'd be looking at the water height, both on the Sacramento River and the same height on the Yolo Bypass. Since the water comes from the same place, the water height will be the same, but it does different things when it gets into the river or into the floodplain, the Yolo Bypass. And in this case, you can see from this curve, which we call a stage discharge curve, that for one particular height, the Sacramento River has one discharge. Now, a discharge is literally the flow rate. It's the amount of water that passes down the river. We typically measure it in 1 cubic foot per second. The higher the number, the more water is moving through the river. The higher the number means the more that you're in a flood condition. And in this case, you can see that the Yolo Bypass for the same stage can literally carry 4 to 5 times as much water as the Sacramento River. And you can also see that the water in the Yolo Bypass is not as deep. So it's a little bit safer going back to that 1 foot, 3 foot, 5 foot depth out there. So floodplains are actually a very important natural feature of our rivers and something that if we're aware of, we can manage safely. So how can we protect people from floods? So I'm going to talk about the first thing that I really like, and that is we use floodplain maps to inform smart growth and the wise use of floodplains. Now, in this particular map, this is Orange County down in Southern California. Some of you also might know of this as the home of Disneyland in Anaheim. So I'll talk a little bit about it. On the left, you're looking at a map of Orange County. Every area that's in light green or dark green is a mapped floodplain. It's an area where we know that there's a risk of flooding, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. It's really hard to see in this graphic, but we've gone through each county and we've listed all of the major flood events that we've seen by the year that they happened. We've gone and listed all the types of flooding that happen out there. We get into a little bit more detail than just coastal, alluvial, or riverine. We have some other engineering terms that we use in here too, but there are different solutions that you can use to manage those risks. And then we've listed out what are the consequences of exposure due to being in a 100-year floodplain or 500-year floodplain. And Orange County happens to be the county with the greatest exposure to flooding in the state of California. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this map. Orange County has done a lot of great things to protect themselves from flooding. Again, here's Anaheim and Disneyland in this dark green area, and then you'll see the smaller light green area. So the light green areas are what we call a 100-year floodplain. Most people would think that a 100-year floodplain means that there's only a flood once every 100 years. That's not true. It's actually a pretty bad name, because what it means is that in any year, there is a 1 in 100 chance that you will have flooding in this light green area. What that means for most homeowners who have mortgages that are about 30 years, that there's a 1 in 4 chance over a 30-year period that you're going to have flooding that will probably destroy your home in this light green area. So one of the things we use maps for is to tell us where not to build houses or to build our houses up higher than that floodplain. The green area is called a 500-year floodplain. And if you're thinking that it means it happens once every 500 years, you're wrong. It means that there's a 1 in 500 chance of flooding happening in this larger dark green area out here. That's still a high risk, but it's not as bad as living in the light green area. And we go through in the state of California in the United States and periodically update these maps to account for climate change and changes within the rivers to see how these floodplains move and how they've changed. So I want to talk about maps that need updating, also known as the not good maps. This is a picture of Merced County. And for those of you who are wondering where Merced County is, if you've ever heard of Yosemite National Park, which is in Mariposa County, it's just neighboring and next door to it. So you've probably driven through Merced County to get into Mariposa County. Now in this map, you'll see a large light green area, which is the San Joaquin River's floodplain, and you'll see these very small patches of dark green. Now the problem here is you might think that it would be safe to live in some of these towns like Atwater or Los Banos that are in the white areas, because you're saying, well, it's not on a floodplain at all. Nope. What happened here is just nobody actually went through after they got the 100-year floodplain and actually made a map of the 500-year floodplain. So one of the things we need to do is we need to look for areas like this to update our maps so that before people build houses, schools, hospitals, or prisons, or roads, that they know what type of risk they're getting into, and they certainly don't want to be in that area where they're over 3 feet of depth into a deep floodplain. So there are things that we can do to protect ourselves from flood risk. First, we can go through and we can build seawalls. This helps protect us from coastal flooding. This is an example of a seawall near my hometown, Galveston, Texas. And this is a very long wall that is used during hurricanes. In picture B here, you can see a dam. This is a really good dam owned by the Department of Water Resources in Southern California. That is Silverwood Lake and the Cedar Springs Dam. And it's near the town of San Bernardino, California. This is effective in protecting people from both riverine and alluvial flooding, depending on where and how big you build the dam. And the dams can be made out of multiple materials. Now this picture right here is the Leland Stanford Governor's Mansion, close to where I'm talking to you in real life right now in Sacramento, California. When Leland Governor became the governor of California, he had to take a rowboat from this mansion to the state capitol, which was less than a mile away, because the city of Sacramento was underwater. After he did that, he actually got jacks and raised up the entire building and added a new basement that was above ground. So when you go into the Leland Governor Mansion, Leland Stanford Mansion, you can take these stairs and you have to go upstairs to the first floor to get to the first floor, but you're not on the ground floor. And the idea is that you won't put any bedrooms or important things in your basement. In fact, they use the basement in the mansion as a dance hall for when they'd have parties. And then the last thing that you'll often see structurally that we'll go through and do to protect ourselves from flood risk is to construct levees. And this is an example of the Pocket, a neighborhood in Sacramento. And you can see the levee built real close to the Sacramento River right here. Now, out of all of these, I talked about how seawalls are good for coastal flooding, how dams are good for riverine and for alluvial. Levees are really good primarily for riverine flooding. But my favorite, of course, is elevating structures, moving yourself away from the flood hazard or flood risk. As long as you're above that deep floodplain, you'll be pretty safe. And you can do this in coastal areas, you can do this in riverine areas, and you can do this also in the alluvial floodplains, making it probably one of the best solutions you can go through and do from a structural construction project. Now, a practice that I like is called making room for rivers. And here you're looking at the Feather River as it flows from upstream to downstream, and you see it bends and winds and meanders like a snake. This is the way natural rivers behave. This particular project, we built what we call setback levees, and we allowed there to be what we call wise use of floodplains. So I have shown in arrows here, this road right here is one levee in red, and then on the other side of the river, far back from the river, is another road. And what it allows it to do is it allows over time for the river to meander and change its course through areas that are in agriculture. You can see an orchard over here and an orchard over here. These areas actually are okay with flooding periodically. It's not like a building where when the water comes through, it damages it. And if people stay out of this corridor when it's flooding, it's actually quite safe. And so one of the ideas is for us to continue to allow room for rivers. And the last thing, as an engineer, I can look at these meandering rivers and I can tell you how dynamic a system is because I'm highlighting here in yellow some areas of erosion. And this allows me, just from looking at a picture, to tell you which direction the water is flowing on a natural basis. And this is a natural function. And eventually, the river will cut through the land here and it'll leave what we call an oxbow lake. And again, the Mississippi River is probably one of the most interesting rivers in the world to go through and see these types of examples of oxbows being formed on an annual basis. So one of the last things that we can go through and do to protect ourselves from flooding is we can actually forecast and coordinate emergency response in advance of flood condition. And this is a photo of the State Federal Flood Operations Center from 2017. And these are the people who were taking all of the forecast information about the storms that were coming not only in February, but in March, April, May, and June of that year, because the Flood Center was activated for over 144 straight days. And then they share that information with local emergency responders so they can keep people safe. And we work at DWR with the National Weather Service to produce forecasts multiple times per day on all of the state's large and small rivers and streams. So I want to leave you with one last thing, something that you can do. And you can visit the website www.cocoras.org. And that stands for Community Collaborative Rain, Hail, and Snow Network. And what you can do is you can sign up and you can buy a rain gauge to put in your backyard or at your school or at your park. And every day you can take a rain measurement. This is an example of one day in September 15, 2018, when a hurricane came through North Carolina. And you can see people were going out in a hurricane, something I would not do, that's pretty dangerous. And they were taking their rain measurements and they were getting over 15 inches of rain in one day. I went through, and I'm one of the gray dots up here in Davis, California, where you could see I took 0 rainfall on September 15, 2018. But meteorologists and engineers like myself use this data to ground truth our forecasts and to make sure that we're actually producing accurate forecasts. So with that, I'm open to any questions you have.
All right, thank you, Mike. So we're almost at the end of our time, but if it's all right with you, we'll go a minute or two over and just get to a couple of questions from folks. One of them is, what would cause Orange County to flood? Are there rivers there, or is it flooding from the ocean? What puts Orange County at such high risk?
It's rivers. The big river that's there is the Santa Ana River, which doesn't start in Orange County. It comes from Riverside and San Bernardino counties. So it moves through two counties before it gets into Orange County.
Okay. All right. So just rainfall coming down that river. And you said it's alluvial fans down there as well. Is that correct?
Exactly right.
So it doesn't take a lot of water, just the right amount.
Right.
Great. And one other question. So those alluvial fans that we saw in the pictures, are those created by flood events? Like does the rainfall kind of cause the erosion of the mountains and then it spreads out at the bottom and then the rainfall along the fans creates more flooding? Is that how it works?
Exactly right. It's where you have a steep mountain or slope, and when the rainfall hits it, if there's no vegetation, then that's going to bring the debris with it. And I want to just put something out there. We're all aware of all the wildfires that have been happening out here. You could have a watershed that normally has vegetation, but the minute it doesn't have vegetation, it's from a fire burning off all the trees and grass.
Right.
It's at a higher flood risk until the vegetation goes back. So it's very important to note that grass and trees are actually an important tool in managing flood risk. They provide a natural function to keep people safe from that debris.
Got it. Yeah, and we will be talking a little bit more about the risk of flooding after fire in about 2 weeks. But that's a really good point, and I'm glad you brought that up because somebody was asking if the recent fires had increased our vulnerability to flooding. Just one final question with the floodplain maps. Who's making those, and are they being updated regularly? Are they being updated to reflect the possible change in precipitation flood regime with climate change, or are they pretty static?
The maps are, they do get updated periodically, but not as much as they should be updated. And it depends upon where you're at. If you're in an area where there are a lot of people, you're going to have a higher priority for updating the maps, which is why Orange County has good maps.
Got it.
If you're in a rural area, like what I was showing there in Merced near Los Banos, there are people there, but not as many. So those maps don't get updated as often.
Got it.
Typically, maps tend to get updated about once every 15 to 20 years. As an engineer, I would think that we should be updating them at least every 10 years. Oh, and the maps that I was showing came from FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. So it's the federal government that comes through and updates maps. And they work with my team at the state of California to talk about which maps and what parts of the state should be updated first. But there are other maps out there besides the FEMA maps. The Department of Water Resources has released maps in the Central Valley, and sometimes cities go through and do their own maps to help them better understand the risk between updates of those FEMA maps.
Okay. So if people wanted to find out what their flood risk was, they could go online and look at their city or possibly the FEMA maps to get a sense if they're on a 100-year or 500-year floodplain, or if they're thinking of buying a new house, they could look into that.
Absolutely. And FEMA has the best tool where you can go. It's the FEMA map web tool. We can provide a link later for this website. But when you can go in, you can create you could put in your address and create a map just for your home. Now the problem is that it's engineers like me who have made these maps, and we use funny names like Zone A, Zone X, Shaded X, A99, Zone V. It's an alphabet soup. And so as you're looking through those maps, people don't know this, but every city and county has a floodplain manager, somebody just like me at your local level. And you can email or ask them questions to help you walk through that map. And if you can't get a hold of them, then you can talk to my team, and then we'll get you in contact with your local floodplain manager and teach you some of the basics of those maps that are out there.
Oh, wonderful. Great. Well, we will definitely add that link. So this presentation will be posted to our YouTube channel, and we will include that link in the comments section in case anybody who's watching would like to see what their flood risk is, and perhaps look into buying some flood insurance for your home.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kathy.
All
Thanks,
right, well,
everybody.
thank you. And so that is going to wrap us up for today. I want to thank Mike for coming. You had a lot of really fascinating information, and thank you everybody who joined us and is still hanging out. So for more information on water in California, you can always visit our webpage, water.ca.gov. If you are looking for learning materials for your kids while they're still at home or partially back in school, you're welcome to visit our website and order some. They're all free and we can send them to you. We've got several workbooks geared to sort of the upper elementary and middle school students on flood and flood preparedness. And as I mentioned, we are coming up on Flood Preparedness Week, which is the week of October 19th through the 23rd. And you can visit our website and see how you can prepare for floods. And we'll add that website that Mike mentioned as well to find out what your flood risk is. We'll be back again next Wednesday at 1 o'clock. As Mike said, we'll be joined by Alyssa Lynn, and she's going to be talking more in depth about these atmospheric rivers that Mike and George both mentioned, the role that they play in flood risk, and how climate change is impacting atmospheric rivers, as well as some really fascinating research that's being done so that we can better prepare for them as they come towards us. So we really hope you can join us. Thank you again. Thank you, Mike, and have a good week, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.